My name is Cathy Sullivan, and I'm representing the Associated Students of Boise State University. I'm the vice president there. I'm going to let you know that it's not just myself and my peers that I confronted, it's the student assembly, which consists of 40 students that represent concentrated groups on campus. And I also surveyed our student body to gain their opinions to testify before you today. Additionally, I want to let you know that I'm a Republican Christian who's engaged to a naval officer from eastern Idaho, and many of the students that I surveyed share this similar background. While it's been speculated that this issue has been politicized, I want legislators to take a moment and let go of any preconceived notions you have about the issue and know that it doesn't lie along party lines. It's a multifaceted issue which should be considered extremely carefully, and I thank you for taking the time to listen to me explore those dimensions. I want you to first look into the constitutionality of this SB 1254. I first want to point out that U.S. conservative Supreme Court members themselves have stated that in special settings, such as educational settings, the Second Amendment right should be prohibited. So under that view, and under the 44 states that also prohibit this on campuses, it is constitutional. Additionally, I want to point out that while we look to the Second Amendment right, we should also focus on other constitutional rights that we are all granted, such as the right to govern ourselves. We have spoken to you as the associated students from all universities, excluding ISU, but I actually took the liberty to survey the student body at ISU, and I got different results than what their elected representatives were saying, including the university representatives and presidents, including our university administration and faculty, including the State Board of Education. Every constituent that this affects has spoken to you and expressed that they are opposed to it. So under that reasoning, under the idea that we who are supposed to be represented by you have spoken to you and asked that this right not be granted to us, I ask you to consider that extremely carefully as you seek our support as constituents. I second want you to look to the fiscal impact that this has in our university. It has been stated that there would be no change because it's not regulated at this point in time. But we have to recognize that as more students can carry and can possess a weapon, we as our universities would want to take the responsibility, and we'd hope that you'd expect it of us as well, to carefully regulate that. As individuals are allowed to carry on campus, they need permits, and we need a way to identify if they have those permits. So what's speculated the cost to have to further regulate that is true and is valid. So you have to consider the fiscal impact, which has been estimated to be over $6 million over the next 3 years. With higher education facing cuts in funding, this is detrimental to student success at our university. And lastly, and most importantly, I want you to consider the safety aspect of this bill, because it's the safety of the students and our citizens that I know you are considering when looking to this legislation. I have several points under this. First, I want us to look at what the training that the individuals go through who gain a concealed weapons permit. As it's been stated that they can step up in place of law enforcement before they arrive to deter the situation. We have to recognize that as they go through that training, they are verbatim told that they are not an extension of the law, and to act as such is extraordinarily dangerous. So that argument isn't valid, as individuals who hold those permits know they should not be standing up to do it. It's only if them as an act of self-defense are using it, and an individual trying to strike against them would not go to someone with a gun, and we can't assume that every single student would then be carrying. So they still have victims that they can get to that would be left defenseless. So under that safety aspect, it just does not cover. Second, I want you to recognize that you're leaving all individuals who live in dormitories unprotected as well, as they have no place to store and carry this weapon. So anyone who lives in those dormitories is discriminated against by this law and aren't granted the safety issues that it supposedly gives to them. Also, I want you to recognize the idea of the open carry that's been discussed today. So while children and visitors are on campus, this will be present, and the actions to be taken to follow up with that would have to be regulated extremely carefully for us to identify if they actually carry a permit or not, which is a dangerous and sticky situation. Additionally, I want you to look to the 1,000 people clause, which raises various problems. We look to the parking lots, which allow individuals to carry. I want you to envision what the parking lot looks at Bronco Stadium during football season. It is full of gaming and alcohol and large crowds. All of that present, along with individuals having guns, which we'd somehow have to regulate if those individuals carry concealed weapons permits, which is extremely dangerous as well. And then secondly, under that, you have to understand that if an individual was to strike against a crowd with a gun, they would do so in one of these settings in which they aren't allowed, in gatherings that are over 1,000 people, so in the stadiums. That's where one would seek to attack that wasn't a law-abiding citizen who took a gun somewhere. And so in those situations, the safety that's expected by this bill wouldn't actually be provided as well. So we're seeing a lot of gaps in the safety that's supposed to be provided, and we're seeing more issues arising that cause it to be a less safe environment. And that's why we've spoken up against it. That's our reasoning, that people who are proud of our Second Amendment rights and want to support it don't want it in this special setting. So I hope that with your duty as your public servant, as an elected official, you take the time to consider that the majority of people have spoken against it in which it affects. I hope that you take this into deep consideration as you move forward with it, as we are your constituents. We are who you want support from in future elections and in all that you do, and we will stand behind you, whichever party you are, if you recognize this from the multidimensional issue that it is. So with that, I ask you to strongly oppose SB 1254 amongst the masses who stand up against it.
Are there questions? Being none, thank you.
I also wanted to deliver a petition that has over 2,500 signatures from Idaho. So I can just leave this up here.
We'll make that part of the record.
Okay, thank you so much.